Joining me now, Congressman, 2nd District Republican, Virginia Beach, serves on the Appropriations Committee, Scott Taylor. Congressman Scott Taylor, good to have you, man.
John, always a pleasure. How are you doing this morning?
Never better. Now, you're in D.C. How bad is it there?
Not too bad. I'm looking out, there's probably maybe 3 inches of snow or something. I think their offices are delayed, and then some schools are closed, but it's not that bad. I'm going to work.
Well, you know what? I didn't go up there this week. I was supposed to leave on Monday. I didn't go because they were saying 10 inches. And, I said to myself, I'm not going to go, and then it'll be like 1.5 inches, and it'll be, all over at noon. But you never know. So anyway, I'm sure you'll be making your way in. Good to have you with us today. Topic of conversation all day, no doubt, Obamacare. My listeners going bananas over the replacement plan. And as you know, Rob Whitman came out last night, said he's going to vote no.
Saw that.
I had to read that 3 times, but he seems to be adamant about it. And look, a lot of people looking at this and saying, even though we know the CBO is not 100% accurate, it was certainly not when they said how many people Obamacare would cover, but costs go up, uninsured go up. Help us understand why this thing makes any sense.
Sure. What? I think it's a legitimate concern and question, obviously. When I look at this, I look at the CBO. I don't know enough about the CBO to say that they're bad people or dishonest or anything like that. But what I will say is, on that note, I think that they're working with not all of the data. So obviously, if you're looking at a piece of this, and when the reconciliation is just the first phase, quite frankly, you have the repeal and replace. It's not the total. It's not even exactly what the bill is going to be in the end. There's still a markup. So you have the reconciliation piece, then you have the Tom Price piece that he's in there now. He's got tremendous power. He's got about 1,400 levers, if you will, to do stabilizing insurance markets and regulatory stuff. And then you have legislation after that, which is the third phase. So, regardless of what you think about the CBO, positive or negative or whatever, they just don't have all the data. They don't have, so I don't know how you score that for 2 things. One, if you don't have a complete data set, scientifically doesn't make sense. And then also, when you're predicting people who may take insurance or be insured or uninsured, you're trying to predict human behavior as well too. And I don't get that. But that being said, I certainly have concerns with it as well. I think it's imperfect for sure. I need more information from the things that I laid out to you just a second ago with Tom Price and what exactly he's going to do and what will that do to the markets, and then what's the upcoming legislation afterwards. So I don't have the totality of the what everything looks like yet. I would submit to you that just the reconciliation piece is not the totality. So I'm not even prepared to say whether I'm against it or for it at this moment because I don't have all the information.
All right,
but I will say that there are things in it. The premiums go up initially, then they're down. There's over $300 billion reduced to the federal deficit. Obviously, I like that. Caps Medicaid, you get a reformation of Medicaid that you haven't had in a long time. And I know there's concerns in Virginia for sure, and I'm one of them because look, we were fiscally conservative. When you look at states like New York, who 1/3 of the people are on Medicaid, 1/3 of the people are on Medicaid because all they simply did was say, okay, we'll expand Medicaid and we'll push as many able-bodied, childless adults onto this program as possible. I think that's irresponsible, and Virginia was responsible. So there are definitely concerns, John, but I'm not prepared to say yay or nay because I don't have the totality of the package at this moment.
All right. So, and are you leaning one way or the other?
I'm leaning towards it because I want, that's one of the things I campaigned on. I want to get it taken care of, and I don't think any bill is going to be perfect. But listen, as leaders, we have to make tough decisions. And when you govern, you have to make tough decisions, and you make it with imperfect, at least in your opinion, imperfect law. So, or imperfect, you don't get everything you want, basically. So I'm leaning towards it, but I don't have the totality of the package, so I can't tell you yay or nay at this moment.
What a lot of people are concerned about is what Tom Price said yesterday is kind of like trust us. Because there's a phase 2 and a phase 3. This is only a down payment. We're going to fix the regulations in phase 2. I'm going to do that. Then in phase 3, then we're going to piss.
You just said that, John, because I'm not saying trust me. I'm saying there are 3 phases. but I want to see what the other stuff is.
Right.
So he
Okay.
needs to show it.
That's fair. No, look, that's fair. And I think, look, I want to back the president. I just can't go with him on this particular thing. So, look, it puts a lot of us in an awkward position because I want to back my president. I believe in him. But I don't think this bill right now, I mean, even if the CBO is off, in the short term, the cost increases are there. There's nothing in this thing to bend them down. That's a concern. And then, it's not going to be a fun time when people that had coverage don't have it. And there's
the
no
only thing
health.
I would say with all the information that I have now, which is not the totality of everything.
Right.
I don't see the cost curve either. What I do see is repealing of a tremendous amount of taxes.
Right.
Which, listen, the government took in more money this year and last year so far than ever before. So, that there is relief there. There's immediate relief on taxes that's there. But the cost curve, you're right. I need more information to see what that looks like. For sure, there are even people in our party that have rightful concerns. There are some that are doing it out of principle, and there are some who are doing it out of politics, which I think is helpful on both sides. But I just want to see all the information.
Okay, let's go to this whole surveillance thing, Congressman Scott Taylor. Yesterday, Sean Spicer at the press briefing saying that he was going to leave it up to the Senate and the Congress to figure it out. They're kind of walking it back. Of course, we had Kellyanne going on TV on Sunday talking about microwave spies and things of that nature. But there's no question that the Trump organization, the campaign, somebody in Trump Tower was being monitored because they had the transcripts of Mike Flynn's telephone call. So they didn't get that through magic, all right? Or as Kellyanne would say, it didn't come from Inspector Gadget. So there was surveillance. Somebody did sign an order. Why not just get this whole thing out?
Well, I personally haven't seen any evidence. That's just because I don't sit on the Intel committee, or I'm not part of the investigation at this moment. But that being said, John, you make excellent points. They got a transcript of Flynn's call. They didn't just simply get that. Right. Somebody got it. Somebody looked at it, and then someone leaked it.
Right.
So, I think that if Congress is going to investigate, I know that Devin Nunes, the chair here, said he was going to do so, and I support that. Go ahead, get it out. I'm with you on that. I haven't seen anything, but it sounds pretty fishy. And if the chairman, if he wants to go ahead and get it out, I'm wondering about the president himself. There was a question if if he can call over to a couple of respective places, whether it's the FBI or whoever, and even internally trying to figure that out. I'd like to know and see that as well too. But if it's up to the chairman, Nunes, to bring stuff to light, well then go ahead and do it.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and do it. Find out what was there, what order was signed, how the surveillance got there, what judge signed it, try to find out the leaker so we can get to the bottom of this. All right, I want to get to the anti-discrimination legislation, Scott Taylor, that you have. Can you share that with our audience?
Sure. Well, it basically adds to the fair housing law. It adds sexual orientation on there as well, too. So as you may know, religion is protected, as is race, as is gender, as is handicap, familiar status as well. It simply adds that. It's already the policy of the National Association of Realtors, ethically wise, for them. So it just puts I supported this in the state house as well, too, and I feel as though there's a gap there. Mm-hmm. So just solving that problem.
And so this is really your first bill. What's been the reaction? Who signed on? Kind of walk us through what your process is.
So you're right. It is the first bill, but I got a bunch of them. We're about to drop a cyber bill this week, too. You'll see that. We got an amendment coming to help for the VA accountability that I think we'll get through as well, too, this week. So I'm going to be doing all kinds of stuff. We got a trade bill coming up as well. But as soon as we drop this bill, we haven't started asking for co-sponsors yet, except for the first one, which was a bipartisan, a Democrat. But I've already had Republicans reaching out to me that want to sign on. Charlie Dent's office already sent something in. Carbella from down in Florida sent something in to get on there as well, too. So I think we're going to have actually a ton of co-sponsors on there once we start getting into it.
All right. Tell us about your series of town hall meetings that you had a couple weeks ago. You haven't been on the air since those. How do you think they went?
Well, I think it was a huge net positive for us, of course. look, most of the folks, there's no question that I think the first 2 nights we had 1,000 people each night. Then we had probably a couple hundred on the Eastern Shore. 95% of the folks were Democrats, and they wanted to have their voices heard, which is fine with me. A lot of my colleagues decided not to do those, and that's their decision based on security or whatever, politics or whatever. But I think everybody should have a seat at the table, and I'm certainly not intimidated by people yelling. So we went there, and the Virginia Beach one was the first one. It was a little robust. There was a lot of yelling. There was the local Democrat Party there who was initiating some yells and stuff like that, and I know that because I know who they are, obviously, and they're right in front of me. But I don't mind taking tough questions. I don't mind putting my positions out there, even if it's the room full of people who don't agree with you. But all in all, I think it was a net positive for us because people respected the fact that we, listened to everybody and told them where we were. Obviously, there are many people in the room who didn't like my answers and never will, but that's fine, and that's why we have elections. So I thought we did a great job, to be honest with you, John. I mean, my team did very well with keeping the crowd ruckus to a minimum as much as they could. People got their voices heard, and I think it was a huge net positive for us, and we'll do more.
Okay, so let's just bottom line this for our audience because a lot of Republicans have been shy about doing these. So Scott Taylor had 3 town hall meetings all in the same week, all in big areas, different areas of his district, all in big venues where any number of people could be there. You invited the media, right? Any TV station.
Any media you could think up, man.
Any media. Crazy. I mean, you guys invited me, right? You invited TV, radio, blogger. You invited all the media. 90% of the people, Democrats. But look, you have a town hall meeting. You opened it up. You answered their questions. You didn't cut it short. You didn't run away. Lasted, what? I think the first one was 2 hours. So they're about 2 hours each. And so when it was over, right? I mean, you took everybody's question. They said what they had to say, and then you went home. What's the big deal?
People were, they wrote their questions down and their names and addresses. And not only did we answer every question that we could in the time allotted, but every single person who submitted a question and address, my staff is answering them and sending their answer back to them. So literally close to 1,000 questions my staff's been working on, and they're going to answer every single one of them. We're going to send them back to the folks who did not get their questions answered. Now, obviously, I don't mind doing that. Like I said, I mean, number one, everyone has a seat at the table. We may agree or may disagree on a lot of things, but hopefully we can find some common ground and move forward. And then, two, I'm not going to be intimidated by activists. It's not going to happen.
Well, you did the right thing because you give everybody a chance to speak, and then they stop asking for town hall meetings because you've already had 3 of them, and you had them all over your district, and now you move on to something else. And you did the right thing. You continue to have them. Other Republicans I've heard that don't have them or they have a telephone one. I mean, just go and have the town hall meetings. That was the best thing you possibly do.
Just do it.
Just do it. You're not going to die. You know what? You're going to get through the 2 hours, and you are an elected official, and you do represent everybody. And so, the argument that people come from outside of the district, so what? Who cares? Have your meeting and give everybody their say, and that's it. Then they eventually peter out. And if you look
I agree. It really just kind of let that emotion, and they're worried, and the ones that obviously don't support the president, but like you said, you let that energy flow, man. You let it go. You get it out,
and then it dissipates. And if even you look at your 3 town halls, you went from what a Virginia Beach was like 250, and then Peninsula you had 125, and then Eastern Shore you had 80. So I mean, it keeps going down as people have their say. They go on to something else. Stopping them or not having them or doing it on Facebook, I think that's a bad idea. I think you absolutely did this the right way, and you handled it with class.
Well, thank you, John. Appreciate that.
Okay, so President Trump sends 250 Marines into Syria. No AUMF, no authorization. I asked Sean Spicer what the deal was in the press briefing a week ago, and he says, I asked him this on TV, and he says, well, they're advisors. And then we find out that they're manning artillery. What's the deal, Scott Taylor?
I've been very vocal about this. I believe that, listen, you have two, and this has nothing to do with President Trump himself, but you have the last two administrations working off the third administration's authorization of military force from 2001. That's a big deal. I mean, and so I think it's time for Congress. It's time for the American people, quite frankly, because you have this small amount of the population who have participated in the sacrifice the past 15 years. And even further, there's so much of a distance between people who have and who have not. It's time for the American people, via the representatives in Congress, to come up and either authorize use of military force or not, have the debate, take a vote. Syria worries me because, and like we've had many conversations about this, if you'd asked me this question 5 years ago, I'd say something different. But right now you got Russia, you got Turkey, you got Iran, you got us, you got Israel, you got other proxies that are in there, and obviously Syria, who are all playing in the same battle space. It worries me about deconfliction. It worries me about the potential for the conflict to grow much larger and be regional, if not world, because there's so many flashpoints there and all these great powers playing in the same space. So I'm a little worried about Syria for sure. I want to know what the end game is, what the goal is, why, what is our goal there? And I think that Congress, both sides, need to step up, have debate, and vote on authorization of military force or not.
I'm with you on that, Scott Taylor, 100%. And I have to say, I was very disappointed in Sean Spicer's answer when he said to me that these are advisors. I mean, that's what Jack Kennedy said in 1960, and they're not advisors.
Yeah, that's what Barack Obama said. They're not boots on the ground. Well, that's BS.
That's BS. We both know it. I mean, these are Marines, and they're we find out from the Department of Defense that they're in there to man artillery. Well, I don't know how you can be advisor if you're sitting behind a machine gun. I mean, what kind of advisor is that?
Combat troops.
Huh?
Combat troops.
They're combat troops.
Combat troops.
And there's no AUMF, and so it goes on. We're out of time, though. I want to thank Scott Taylor for being with us on this snowy day in Washington, D.C. Scott, it's always a pleasure to have you on, Congressman. Thank you so
John.
much.
Thank you for having me.
More information, scotttaylor.us. This is the John Fredericks Radio Network.